Hello, everyone. So, I want to start off with talking about a story. So, once upon a time, there were three bears that lived in the forest. And one day, while they were outside of their house doing their own thing, a girl came up to their house. She knocked on their door, and when she didn't hear anyone, she went inside their house. So, I started telling you the story about Goldilocks and the three bears. So, in this story, the bears are out of their house. Goldilocks goes into their house and she uses their things. She eats their food, she sits in their chairs, and she sleeps in their bed. So then the bears come back, they see her, and they chase her away. So this story had characters, which are who the story is about. So the characters in that story are Goldilocks and the bears. And then the setting is where the story takes place, where the story happens. So the setting of this story is the Three Bears' house. And then every story has a problem. The problem in this story was that Goldilocks was using and breaking the bear's things. And then the solution is how the problem of the story is fixed. So in this story, the solution is that the bears come home and they chase her away. So then she's not there anymore and they don't have to worry about her messing with their things. So all stories have these different elements, these different parts that make up the story, which are the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution. So we can think about that when we read. We can look at the pictures that helps us kind of see what's happening in the story. And we always know that the characters are who the story is about, and then we can see where the story happens. And then from there, we can see what's happening, what's going on in the story, and then how is it fixed. So I want us now to look at this poster here. It's titled Play with Me. So there are these pictures. This top one here, there's a boy, and he looks sad, and there are other kids playing. And then in this picture, he still looks sad, but he's by himself now. And then this last picture, he doesn't look sad anymore, and he's playing with other kids. So we can look at this to help us figure out what elements are in this picture, and then we can kind of think about what the story could be. So here is the boy with a dog and other kids. So we know those are the characters because that's who this is about. And then the setting we can say is outside because we can see trees, we can see grass, we can see clouds and the sky. And so let's see, what do we think the problem is? So if we look at our picture again, we can look at the characters and see. So I think the problem is that the boy wants to play with the other kids because he looks sad here. And then we can see that he's thinking. So the problem is that he wants to play with the other kids. So now he's thinking about what he could do. So then the solution is that they're all playing together on the slide. So we have the characters, which are the kids, the setting, it's outside. The problem is that he was sad and wants to play, but then the solution is that now they're all playing together and they're having fun. So we can stop to think about how before we didn't know what the problem was or what even this was about. But then we looked at the different pictures and we can think about what's happening. We can see that there are different parts, and that can help us figure out what's going on in a story. So I want us to think about how there are different parts of a story and how we can then tell those different parts of a story. So when I told the story about these pictures, I didn't have words to read, but I could look at what was happening and I can tell you, I could condense it into smaller parts that were easy to understand. So when we talk about those things like that, when we condense things into smaller parts, that is summarizing. So summarizing is kind of like retelling when we talked about what happened before. Summarizing is taking what happened, like words or pictures, and we can talk about it in a shorter way instead of going through all the words and every single thing that happened. So I want you to think about that when you're reading stories and books, or even when you're telling stories. When you tell stories, you're also talking about different story elements, and you can also summarize when you tell stories as well.